Hey everyone, this is Patricia Roebuck, and I'm back to pick up where I left off in the Traveler's Notebook. The kit that I had gotten was the Studio Calico October kit. And so what I'm doing is on the next page, it has the pattern paper on both sides of the spread, on the left and the right, and I really, really like the texture of the background as well as the angles. I really love angles in any kind of scrapbooking because they help direct your eye around the layout. And in this case, I'm using it to help with the focus around the photo. So I have the larger photo on the right. I believe that's about a 3x4, about project life size. And then I have a small 1x1 of the pumpkins, and then I have a 2x3 of my daughter. With that larger photo on the right, can you see how there's like a big arrow that points to that photo? That's from the angle of the pattern paper. And then those intersections of the angles at the top help create a nice little landing and a grounding spot for those other photos. Now, you know, sometimes we as scrapbookers, and I am the first to admit, I like to shuffle things around. Sometimes I have things in my mind and they just click, and then sometimes I don't. I did shuffle things around a little bit on this one, but overall I did want to emphasize those angles and I didn't want to create too much bulk. So I kind of removed and shifted some of those stickers around. And I think sometimes we're hard on ourselves with that, and that is really part of the fun of scrapbooking is, you know, you want to get your page the way that you like it. Okay, so on this next one, you can see it has a polka dot, black and white on the left, and it has that graphed paper on the other side. I want to use a large photo, so I printed it on 8.5 by 11 paper. It's probably printed at about 8 by 10. For adhesive, I'm choosing to use the white liner tape so that I can get as close to the edge where that photo is going to meet up with the spine so that it will lay as flat as possible. Because you will sometimes, when you get things close to the spine, they will lift up a little bit. And if you can get that adhesive close to the edge of the die cut or the photo, it does help for it to lie a little bit flatter. Now I want to cover up the people in that large photo. So that is my, and I hate to use the word dilemma, but this page really got a lot of shuffling around because I really didn't want to create a lot of bulk on the page, but I really did want to cover up the people in the background. And you know, you can't help that. This wasn't a staged photo. This was a moving photo. So there wasn't let's wait till people walk by and then, you know, pose again. No, it was a one-time opportunity to get that photo of my daughter on the swing, on the little zip line there. So I do need things that are fairly large. So that stamp stamped onto the craft paper with the sentiment that's part of that stamp that comes in the kit does help. Now I'm using that die cut wood veneer here, a label that I had done. You'll see I used those a lot in the other video. And I stitched some stickers and some of those little stamp stickers that are in the kit here. This is just part of my playing around, and really I did not like it. It was created too much bulk. And as you can see earlier, I used my MISTI tool to do the stamping because I was trying to do a color that I thought I liked with the spread, and I knew it would be a little bit light. So I needed to stamp it 3 times, and to get it perfectly stamped and inked, the MISTI does help with that. So that's why I pulled out the MISTI. But I end up, overall, I use that craft banner stamped like that, but I change out the ink color. And so I'm going to leave that alone. Sometimes you just need to leave it alone and go on to something else. What I'm doing here is I'm using those little stamp stickers and lining them along the spine, and I just used my finger and put some baby powder on the underside of them, on the left side of them, so that they would just kind of lift up a little bit. And see, walking away from that cluster that I was trying to create to cover those people, it just helps to give you a different perspective. So I start removing some things and adding some other things to make it a little bit lighter, But again, I do still I need a good bit to cover up those people. But what I did is I changed that ink color like I had mentioned I was going to do earlier, and then I added that yellow leaf. I like the pop of the color. Now this next page and spread, this one came together very quickly. I think sometimes, you know, you think too hard and it bogs you down. But when you just roll with something and you just keep it flowing, it just seems to help. But on this one, I'm going to use that same banner stamp, and I'm going to stamp all around this page. I basically want to create a background with it. Now I started stamping with the lighter ink, and then the next shade darker, and then I'm saving the darkest for last because that will be the boldest. So I'm creating kind of a soft background with this stamp, and then this last color is going to be a little bit more bolder. And I love to create in, you know, the odd numbers for design. So I have the 3 stamps around, and that really frames the page and it frames the photo. Now on the other side, I really don't have a whole lot of journaling that I want to do, so I'm actually going to get pretty creative again with the stamping, with the stamp set from the kit. And I'm matching as best I can the color ink to those labels on the pattern paper. And what I'm doing there is I am stamping that pencil image, and I'm really liking how this is looking. I'm going to go ahead and commit and adhere that photo because I know that's going to be there. Now another idea that came to me is I want to use these stamps, these little die cut stamps, and do the same thing. So I pick colors that coordinate or match with the labels from the pattern paper, and then I put that next to the pencils that I have stamped. And after I do that, then it gives me another idea. The little eyeglasses from the stamp set would fit perfectly to the left of those little stamped die cuts, or stickers. So that's what I will do next to finish this page. And this was a really, really quick page because everything really just clicked. And I did the exact same thing. I used the same inks. And that finishes that page. So now I go back. I realized, oh, wait a minute, I had a photo that I wanted to use. So I adhere this smaller photo to that left side. And then what I did is I went ahead and printed the rest of my photos. This is how I usually work in my traveler's notebook, is I like to plan out my spreads ahead of time, looking at the amount of photos I have, deciding on the design for them, and then print them in the size that I need them. And then go back and start working on the details of each spread. So now I'm going to pick up on this next spread. This one has a nice, bold design with those leaves on the left side. This photo on the right I had used from the YouVersion. They have a new app called Lens. And I took the photo, and you can have it select a verse. And it picked a really good verse. I really liked this. So I printed that like that. And I used that stamp with the craft paper again. I really love that stamp. You get so much use out of it. And just added my journaling directly to that. Now you can see that little piece of the label, that wood veneer label with the stitched label and sticker. I was going to use on that other spread. I used it here. So nothing is wasted, which is really great. Now I'm going to move on to the next spread here, and this one's going to be another simple one. That You Are Golden is perfect for this photo of my daughter. You can see later in photos, I come back and add another piece of washi to the top of that photo just to frame it. I added my journaling to one of those little house notepads and just trimmed it to fit down there. And I just layered some stickers on the left side. So that was it. Easy, easy page. Now this next spread, I decided I was going to either do the selfie of myself or this photo, and I really kind of liked this photo. So I used this, and I stamped home on the left side, and I just typed on a separate piece of cardstock, wet. So currently wet, rather be home. It was a really, really nasty day. But it worked perfectly for this spread. You got to document it, right? So I used that pennant that I had stamped with the sentiment that I did not use on the spread with my daughter on the zip line, and I used that to tuck under here. And then I just create a little bit of layering with the stamp stickers, and another little sticker here. And then that finishes that page. Really simple, simple, simple. So I'll just keep moving on. Now this page is going to start a little bit more of the Halloween season of October, and this was Boo Fest. So I had planned, like I said, I printed the photos. I knew I wanted a larger one of all of us on the left, and then the smaller photo of my daughter there on the right. And they both get equal amount of focus because of that. Now I'm using, I used one of the house notepads, and I stamped that pennant and fussy cut it out, and I'm just going to stamp Boo Fest onto here using some of my older stashes of stamps here, of alpha stamps. Now for this side, I decided to get creative again with that pennant stamp. And I'm going to create a border. Instead of a full background, I'm just going to create a border. And I used, I believe, 3 different inks. So I basically did the same thing, started with the lightest and the darkest. And then that inspired my journaling. I wanted to get a little bit more creative with the journaling. So I stamp on a separate piece of paper in the same ink to match. You'll see in a little bit, to match the pennant here. So that's the same color ink on top of it, which it really doesn't matter, but I did overall want that design of that color right there. So I used that same ink color, penciled it off, added my journaling. I'm going to adhere that. So it's a little bit at an angle and it's a little bit different. I really love how this came out. And sometimes, you know, like I said, you really just have to flow with it. Now I had penciled where I should trim, and I should know better. I cannot, me with a pair of scissors on an edge like that is never a good thing. So I have to pull out the self-healing mat and the craft knife to finish that off, to get it a nice clean cut. And then that finishes that spread. I just add a little bit of washi here, and I stamp. I love those little dots too from the kit. I stamp in Fun Stamper's Journey it's a dye and a pigment ink, so it stamps permanent on things like this. You can actually even heat blast it a little bit if you wanted to. Now I added a little sticker to that. The sticker on the left side I ended up removing. It was a little bit too much right there. This page has a good amount of photos, and that's one of my favorite things about the Traveler's Notebook is you can really add as little or as much photos as you want. It's really, really good for documenting. Now, since that is the main part of this spread, filling it in, you know, I take my time. I just really enjoy it, but I don't want to create too much bulk. So sometimes you do, just like with the other spreads, you just have to place things and remove them and shuffle them around. So what I decided for this sentiment from the stamp set was to use one of those house notepads, trim it down to make it look like an arrow, and then I added a half of those circle stickers to that. And then that black cut label right there emphasizes that photo. And I'm pulling out some older stamps here. These are older, I believe, Studio Calico stamps. And I'm going to stamp that next to us. But I want to use that dotted stamp again to just create a nice little layered look. And I had to stamp it twice because I got a little bit too far under that photo. Then I'm going to stamp it down at the bottom because I'm going to put another label down there. And then the last thing that I do after I get all the stamping done is add a little bit of stitching to that little journaling spot, or that spot, that arrow that I created right there. And it just creates a nice little balance of the black all the way around. So overall, it's a busy spread, but I kept it clean, and I really like how that came out. So moving on to the next one, I really love the pattern papers and the sentiments and things that are on, that are in this notebook. This was a perfect one for my daughter. We were chatting on the porch after school, and I'm using that pennant stamp again. I love it, but this time I am just going straight down. I don't want to take away from the graph paper here, which I love, and but I just wanted to add a little bit more of a layered look. And this is going to be a simple spread. I'm just going to add the sticker, and I'm going to grab some vellum because I don't want to cover up that graph paper. I'll pencil off where my journaling should end. Type up my journaling, trim the paper, and I'm going to use glue dots instead of my tape runner because I find that the glue dots don't show through the vellum. And then I'm going to adhere that to the right, and that will complete that layout. And that's perfect. I love it. It's perfect documenting of the conversation with my daughter. Now we're moving on to Halloween here. I've printed a large photo again, and I'm going to adhere that on one side. And I took these letters and some old washi tape. I lined the washi tape on black cardstock and used some Altenew alpha letters that I die cut from it. And I want to use some numbers too. So I'm also using this Altenew 31st here. I wasn't sure yet if I wanted to cover the entire page, but I decided just the 31st there. And I adhered the Halloween with my glue gun there. I have really been wanting to get more and more creative with that house notepad. There's some other ideas that I had, but it just did not work for the for this notebook. But I want to use these notepads as my background. So I want to create a collage of them on this right side. So I'm going to fill them in all around, moving them around at different angles and trimming them where I need to. They're so subtle, but they have just enough texture that I love it. And I love it that it's houses because for Halloween, hello, it's perfect. I was like, yes, I have to save it and save this idea for Halloween because it's like, trick-or-treating. And it was perfect. So I fill in all around this right side, trim it, like I said, where it will fit. And then once that's done, I want to address the left side, just because I know that I want something that's Halloween related but not overly theme related, just because it fits with the spread. And so I'll pull out an old Studio Calico stamp set here. It's a Halloween stamp set. I don't think I've used this stamp before, so I'm just running my eraser over it to get it ready to take up that ink. And then I'm just going to stamp that right there. I don't know yet what else I want to add to that side, but I'm going to have quite a bit of photos and quite a bit of stuff going on the right side with the collage of the houses. And what I did with the photos to help it flow and not be so cluttered is I created them. 2 of them are in the same size, I believe, and then, yes, these 2 are 1x1s. And one is a 2x2. This one's a little bit bigger than 2x3, I believe, and then the other one's even smaller than that. So that finishes that side. I don't need to add any journaling to this. On the left side, I'm going to finish it up with the rest of the leaves that are from the kit, those beautiful, beautiful leaves. And that finishes my October memories. There was one other memory that I forgot to add, and you can see that on my blog. I'll have that linked. But other than that, that finishes this. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Love y'all. Bye-bye.